Okay, y'all. Good to see everybody here. Shalom. Shalom, shalom. I'm glad you're here. So, we're going to talk about there's some updates on Europe and what's going on over there. Y'all, it's far worse than anything you ever heard in the media up until now. Now, the last time I looked, it was like 1,400 people lost their lives to the heat wave. Mm-mm. Then something kind of got my attention. I was online and it was a man and he was talking. He was over there and he says, no, no, no. There's 1,000 per day that are losing their lives in this heat wave, right? I said, 1,000 a day? He says, oh no, what they're doing in the media is a big underreporting. So I went out to look because I was curious. I want to show y'all what I found. Let me share my screen. Okay, here's what I found. This came out July 2nd, 2026, and it's on Gizmodo. According to this, 20,000 people, most of them in France, but in other parts, like Portugal, Spain, because this is all over, have lost their lives in the last 2 weeks over in Europe. Because I know I was looking at a few videos and it was talking about how the morgues over there can't even take any more people. And I was like, well, if they can't take people, it's got to be more than the 1,400. That doesn't make any sense. So when I went out and found this article, yes. So according to this, 20,000 have lost their lives to the heat wave in the last 2 weeks. So, yes, this thing is really bad over in Europe. And we're still not even halfway through the summer. You can imagine how bad it's going to be by the end of the summer. And they already got low birth rate. So, this is really going to take people out on top of the low birth rate. Y'all, you're going to get a good laugh out of this. And I'm probably going to do a live on this tomorrow. Donald Trump is accusing someone of geoengineering the weather to ruin, the big American party down there in DC. And you ain't gonna believe this, y'all. He went to South Dakota to do his speech at Mount Rushmore. The night before, they had a hailstorm in South Dakota. And he's saying somebody is geoengineering the weather to make these things happen. Yeah, Donald Trump he's called the Most High, the Heavenly Father. He's the geoengineer behind the whole thing. They had a hailstorm where Donald Trump is. Boy, you can't make this. Donald Trump, you are cursed. That's what it means. He's showing you that you are cursed by bringing down this heat wave. Y'all, they said the ambulances were coming in and out at Donald Trump's event down there in DC. People were dropping like flies from the intense heat. So, on top of all that, he got hit with a hailstorm exactly where he was located in South Dakota. Come on, Donald Trump. That's a curse, man. Yeah, your geoengineer, his name is the Most High. And this is a curse, y'all. I want y'all to reflect back to when Donald Trump had his inauguration. It was one of the coldest days on record in DC, and that was on his inauguration. So the Most High has been on his heels for quite some time. I'm just saying, y'all. I'm just saying. So we'll talk about that way more tomorrow. So anyway, back to Europe. So it is It is bad over there. So for the past 2 weeks, Europe have been grappling with a blistering heat wave that scientists have called the worst extreme heat event on record for the continent, made possible only by climate change. No, it's called the Most High. Okay, our Abba Yah, that's who is bringing this down on this planet, because y'all are under judgment. That's why this is happening in Europe. Remember, a lot of these European nations, they had slavery there too. Now, a jaw dropping new assessment of its death toll underscores the dangers of our rapidly warming planet. All right, so y'all, they did this study at the University of Bloomington, and they estimate 20,390 heat related deaths across Europe, which started on June 22nd through the 28th. And of course, all of July, it has not stopped. So in France, which recorded the hottest day on record on June 23rd, health authorities reported more than a thousand people lost their lives on that one day. And funeral homes have become so overwhelmed, they are turning people away. Y'all, they said people have bodies of their loved ones in their house for like 4 and 5 days before the bodies can be collected, because the morgue say they're so overwhelmed, they're having a hard time taking people. So people got their loved ones at home that have expired, and their bodies are there for like 3 and 4, 5 days before somebody can come and get them. That is crazy. Can you imagine the stench? Oh, that is horrible. All right, I'm trying to get. All right, so they said that they have had days above 104 degrees Fahrenheit, and there is no end in sight. There is no end in sight, y'all. Okay, so a lot of these deaths that are occurring, of course, in France, Spain, Portugal, and other locations where, the death toll is not quite as high as France, but, there are other locations around. So here we go. Over the space of the greatest mortality estimated in France, so they're saying 5,210 fatalities in France. In Germany, 4,543. In Spain, 3,167 fatalities. And in Italy, 2,709. And this is in a space of 2 weeks. That is crazy. So I think what that person said, that there is literally being a thousand per day. I think they are right. All right. So when I came across this article, I wanted to make sure I showed that to you so you can see this thing is real. It is happening, and they are suffering over there. And ladies and gentlemen, to add insult to injury, the majority of the people in Europe still don't have AC at home. That's why so many of them are dropping. They do not have AC at home. And see, at one point in time, the summers were always mild. Now, when I was living over there, the highest it got was probably the mid 80s. Okay. Now they go well over 100 for days on end. And again, you can see where judgment is. Just pay attention to these places that have these freak weather and freak uh, earthquakes. Okay. These are the places that are facing a lot of judgment, y'all. And you know, all of Europe is going to be facing some big time judgment, and they are. So, this is spanning across Europe, across many nations right now, this heat dome. And I was looking at one report that came out of there, and they said the thing is not moving. Now, with us, the heat dome is going away. It will be gone as of Monday. Now, today we reached 102, which it is right now as I'm speaking to you. It's 102 degrees where I am. And they tomorrow we're going to be 90, and by Monday we're going to only be 77 degrees during the day. So it's about over for us. But as for Europe, y'all, it is going on and on and on. Oh no, it's in the US. Look at this heat dome. There were places they said that went up to 115 degrees, 110 degrees. So it's been plenty hot. And like I said, at Donald Trump's events, they're passing out. They have to have emergency responders going up there to collect people that have passed out. So, no, that judgment is here too. You know, what's going on in Europe and what's going on here is simultaneous. And, you know, y'all, this ain't the only one. It's going to be another one like this coming. Summer is not over. It's going to be another heat dome, and you're going to see more of this throughout the summer. All right. Let me. Yeah. All right. Hold on. I'm going to share my screen so we can get into the video. Okay, y'all. Please give me a one if you can see my screen. So all of these stories coming out from the BBC and other news outlet, the AP, Reuters, they're all giving you lowball numbers. They're trying to tell everybody only 1,000 have lost their lives to the heat wave over in Europe. And then I saw 1,400 and 1,300, but they're lowballing all of those numbers. Thank you for the ones.
Shalom, shalom, family. Last week, I did a video speaking about the sun and the UV radiation. Fast forward to this week, we have thousands of people in Europe dying from a heat wave. A lot of people are reporting on this heat wave, but they're missing one component. They think the death rate is 1,300 in total. There's over 1,200 to 1,400 deaths a day. Let me show you the receipt. Damn, TikTok, you got me glitching, but you already know I'm the glitch in the matrix. But let's read below. The agency said more than 1,200 deaths were recorded on June 24th, and over 1,400 daily deaths occurred on June 25th and June 26th. So if people are dropping like flies already at the beginning of the summer over there, what do you think the total number is going to be by the end of the summer worldwide? We've been giving you the scientific facts for years, and we've been called crazy, hateful, or racist. To me, it seems the sun is crazy, hateful, and racist. because it is literally erasing a certain type of species. Like I said before, if you're not organic to this realm, the sun is going to take you out. Shalom.
Over the weekend, I received more than 150 calls and had to turn away over 150 bodies. People are in a state of utter distress and panic. Imagine your father's or mother's body decomposing, and we are unable to take charge of it. We have no solution to offer them. We simply cannot meet the demand. If a death occurs today, if you call it crematorium, the earliest available date is already July 10th. The bodies have to remain here until they are taken for cremation or burial.
France has said more than 2,000 extra people died during the last week of June's record-breaking heatwave. That's an increase of nearly 30% compared to the week before, Public Health France said. France saw its hottest day ever on average countrywide on the 24th of June, with temperatures hitting almost 41 degrees Celsius in Paris. Weather experts are also warning that more extreme heat is expected across parts of Europe in the coming days. Météo France has issued red alerts for Friday and Saturday for forest fires in the southern part of the country, and warned that weather conditions meant the risk of an outbreak was very high compared to summer norms.
In Europe, there's a perfect storm, the oldest population on any continent that's warming the fastest. France's record heat last week is linked to roughly 1,000 deaths of mostly elderly.
Of all climate-related impacts and hazards, heat is the biggest killer.
European officials are calling for change, but not the kind that may seem obvious.
Install air conditioning, especially for vulnerable people, and save lives. Why is that not a solution in Europe?
My honest response is I don't think that should be the solution anywhere. In the longer term, what happens is installing more air conditioning actually emits more heat into our environment, so it will actually increase the speed of warming.
It's also more expensive. Energy prices are much higher in Europe. Governments find other ways to cool historic and densely populated cities. In Rome, wearable technology is distributed to monitor the elderly, who are by far in the most danger.
A recent survey in France said 1 in 6 people they surveyed said they'd rather suffer for the sake of the environment. Does that surprise you?
No, we're not doing this for us. We're doing this for the future generations.
Lee Canary, CBS News, London.
Death toll will likely rise as more details are learned about those affected by last week's record-breaking heat wave. Its public health agency estimates that more than 1,000 additional deaths were linked to the scorching temperatures that took place from Wednesday to Friday last week.
Half of all Americans are bracing for a prolonged and dangerous heat wave, and it could peak.
Did y'all just hear what the lady just said, yo? Nigga, the lady just said 1,000 people just died in France based off the new sun. Let me just take a moment to pause. Like, bro, 1,000 people just died in France. Ain't nobody talking about this. Ain't nobody talking about this shit. Y'all, for real, this shit is crazy, yo. This shit is actually insane. But yeah, so basically, bro, wow, like I don't even have any words. All I'm thinking about is how the world is evolving, because, you know, the more that it get hotter, you know, people start to wake up. Actually, I'm always talking about this, us waking up and getting into our true powers and getting into our true gifts. I talked about in my previous videos about a solar flare. You know, a solar flare, when a solar flare hits the earth, it definitely is going to impact it. Electromagnetic field. So like on that note, the people that are aboriginal to this land, the people that are here and that have been here, you know, moving righteous, serving good, it's time. It's time. That's why you've been seeing a lot of Black people waking up, You've been seeing a lot of different things around the world going on because it's stay prepared so you don't have to get ready. That's all I'm gonna say. I can't say too much. But yeah, 1,000 people just died in France. For everybody that did just die, that just passed away, you know, my condolences. But it's crazy how we're not talking about it, you know?
Global health officials say more than 1,300 deaths have been linked to the record heat wave blanketing Europe. That toll is likely to rise as France alone reported at least 1,000 deaths above normal last week during some of the country's hottest ever days for the month of June. In Berlin over the weekend, police shot water cannons to cool down sweltering crowds. And in Budapest, Hungary, temperatures today soared to more than 100 degrees Fahrenheit, far above normal even for summer.
I hardly left home and I'm sweating all over. This is simply unbearable. 28 degrees Celsius, that used to be summer. I don't know what this is now. What is coming to us after this?
Meantime, tens of millions of Americans are also under extreme heat warnings this week. Triple-digit temperatures will bake the Midwest and East Coast as the country prepares for July 4th celebrations.
Support journalism you trust. Support PBS News. Donate now, or even better, start a monthly contribution today.
Can y'all hear me now? Can you hear me? Okay. Look, y'all, the judgment is real. The judgment is real. And we're going to get caught up in it because, you know, when he makes the weather triple digit for several days, we're going to get caught up in it. But remember, we're going to be okay. But these other folks, they're not going to be okay. That's why this past week, ambulances have been up at these great American 2050 anniversary events and the state fair and everything. They said even today, there were several people that had to be taken to the hospital from passing out from the temperatures. So no, judgment is here. It's here, y'all. And I'm just grateful the Most High is letting us be alive to see all this stuff unfold. Look at what's happening in Europe. Look at what's happening over here. Okay? And the amount of people that are suffering and passing out and losing their lives to the weather. And you can best believe there are some people, especially when you talk about the homeless. See, you can't live in a car, which a lot of our homeless people over here do. You can't live in a car in 104 degrees, 105 degrees. No, believe me, some have lost their lives over here. We just haven't heard about it yet because there are a lot of homeless people. It's hard to be homeless in these kind of temperatures. And we see what's happening in Europe, and y'all, it's every day the death toll just keeps climbing over there. And the judgment is real. It is real. And it will. And it will continue to do that. So, y'all, this has been so extraordinary. And I think if I was not around to see it, I wouldn't believe what was going on right now. But the fact that Donald Trump flew all the way to South Dakota, and just before he gave his speech, they had a bad hailstorm. Oh, Donald Trump, it just proved, Most High is proving you can't escape judgment. You can't escape judgment. That's all that means. You were burning up in DC. You thought if you flew to South Dakota, you would be okay there, and he brought a hailstorm down on your ass. That says a lot. So, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and conclude. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your support. And wherever you are, if you are part of the heat wave, one thing about over here, it's about to end. For us, it will be broken as of Monday, but we do have a 90-degree day where I'm located. Right now, as I'm speaking to you, it's 102 degrees where I am. And boy, do you feel it if you have to step outside. And there's some people trying to have a cookout. It is way too hot for that. But hey, you have at it. These are Gentile holidays, and y'all have at it. I'm not interested in being out there and doing that. I don't see how you can do it. The temperatures are so bad right now. 110 where you are. Well, DC actually, I think, hit 101. The heat index is 110 degrees. They said the heat index is 110. Oh, no, there are people out here trying to barbecue, y'all. I'm not kidding. I am not kidding. I said, I guess y'all want to celebrate the holiday real bad. I wouldn't be out no 102 degrees standing over no damn grill. Are you crazy? But some of these people are so desperate to have a good time on this day. Yeah, they'll go out there and do some crazy crap like that. They can have it. Man, I'm glad I don't celebrate these holidays anymore. Well, apparently America don't celebrate because hardly nobody went down there to Donald Trump's event. So but that's what what he's going to do, y'all. When this whole thing is over, he's going to blame the weather for a low turnout. But I want y'all to remember one thing. When he had that military parade, we were not in a heat wave then. And it was a very low turnout. In fact, I think they estimated the crowd as 2,000 people when he had his military parade. So it's not the military parade or even the heat wave. People, if they really want to be there, they'll be there. Plain and simple. But all praises to the Most High. All he got to do is use the weather to manipulate any event they plan on having. You know what you can't do to the weather, MAGA? You can't arrest it. You can't shoot at it. You can't run the cops down there on it. You can't do none of that. And look at the stuff that he's used on them over these past several weeks. I told y'all about the bee swarm up at the White House. Again, y'all can't call the police on the bee swarm. Y'all can't shoot the bee swarm. You can't arrest the bee swarm. He's using all things that y'all are powerless over. You are completely powerless over the things that he's doing to you right now. Woo! Oh man, I love the Most High. I'm gonna have to listen to that song over there on my playlist. I love the Most High, y'all. I love the Most High. I really do. So, y'all, I'm gonna go ahead and conclude. Thank you for being here, and I will see you on my next live. Shalom, family.